What up, guys? Today we got a question from devlostworkshop on YouTube, and he says, "Hey, bruv." Bruv. He says, "I recently started doing Jiu-Jitsu. Do you have any techniques or insight on how to improve your breathing?" It's something he's struggling with, and he wants to improve it. So, brother, thank you for the question. And yeah, this is a issue that a lot of white belts deal with. I dealt with it. I struggle with it big time. And it's one of these things where if some of you guys are in the gym and you just get exhausted, you might do what I'm going to tell you to do in a minute, and you literally might have your cardio instantly increase because you're making more efficient use of your breath and you're not holding your breath as much. So going back to it, why is this a problem? Well, think about it. Like, you're exerting your muscles, you're doing all this activity, and a lot of people, when they're put into like really stressful situations like rolling, you know, is as comfortable it is as to some of us, as safe as we know it is, when your body's in that situation, a lot of times it's stressful. Some person's trying to choke you or throw you or whatever. You'll find that your body just tenses up naturally. Not everybody's, but a lot of people's. I imagine for you, this is probably the situation. And you might find that you're holding your breath a lot. And so what's going to happen is your muscles are being used and they're not getting oxygen, and you will find that you just gas out super quick doing that. I used to do this all the time. In fact, like my coach, one of his number one cues for me in competition, and this is like my cue to this day, I always tell whoever's coaching me, like, remind me to breathe, is to breathe, right? He would just yell, breathe. And it was just my cue to take a breath. And it's amazing what happens when you do that, because you can be in the middle of this situation and you get in tunnel vision, you're squeezing whatever, and as soon as you take a breath, all of a sudden you're relaxing a little bit. It happened to one of my students this weekend. He was competing in his very first competition. Alex did a great job, ended up making it really far in the absolute bracket, and I believe he won his division. But I scrambled over to one of his matches, and I'm watching him, and he's just moving too much. He's just moving, he's not settling into position, and I see how tense he is. And so he ended up getting inside the guy's full guard, which should be a position where we can kind of settle for a second. And I just started screaming, breathe, breathe, Alex. And then I watched him, and he went, and then instantly you could just see things started to slow down a little bit. He was a little bit more loose, and he was a lot more thoughtful. And after the match was over, he was even telling me, bro, like that was a huge deal. Like, I wasn't breathing, and as soon as I started breathing, it was like I started to relax a little bit more and think a little bit more, right? So going to you, it's an important thing to breathe, and like I said, it could instantly improve your cardio. So what do? You have to train it, just like anything else. If you ever go to like a boxing gym or something, a lot of times you might hear people, like, as they're moving through their punches, you know, shh, 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 shh. They're not doing that for sound effects, right? They're trying to train themselves to breathe. Because just like when you hold your breath and rolling, you'll get some people in sparring. And when the first time they spar and someone's throwing a jab at them, just a light jab, their bodies tense up, they hold their breath, and they gas out super quick. It'll be like 1 minute, and they're already exhausted, even though this is a person that can go hit the heavy bag for an hour, no problem. It's just a different situation. And so they train it. They're breathing through their movements. You want to do the same thing. So when you're rolling, or drilling in the gym, practicing your techniques, you want to breathe through these movements, right? If you're doing guard passing drills, you're practicing your breath. What I tend to tell people to do too is when you get into a dominant position, or a position that is a little bit more static, at least for a second. Like, you think of like getting into full guard, like you take someone down, you get to full guard. There's usually like a moment of sort of pause where we're kind of holding that position. If I pass your guard and get to side control, there's a pause there, right? And so you can even drill that as you're doing these different movements, if you get to any of these positions, to breathe. And then you have to train it during the rolling. And when you do it in the rolling, it's something that you have to do very consciously. You have to go into the roll and remind yourself to breathe when you get to certain positions or while you're doing certain movements. This is something to this day that I do. Like, if you watch some of my rolling videos, every now and then you'll catch me going, making this very like dramatic sounding breath, you know, not the regular breathing. And that's, again, for me, usually after a hard scramble, I'm trying to bring everything down a little bit, especially if I'm in the middle of a good fight with a good scrap with one of my guys. And so that's the big idea. You have to train it. So train it through your drilling, really focus on your breathing with your movements. And then also too, when you roll, try to remind yourself to breathe. As simple as that is, bro, that's it, right? Now, the breath that I tend to tell people to do is in through the nose, out through the mouth. So my coach had me do this 20 years ago, and like I was watching Andrew Huberman or something like that, and it's called a physiological sigh. So 2 in through the nose, out through the mouth, right? So you're taking someone down, you're inside full guard, you're holding them for a second, take a breath. They get on top of you. and you set your frames up so you're kind of in a safe position for a moment, slow down a little bit. It makes a world of difference in both your ability to survive bad positions because you're able to bring down that anxiety or panic level you might feel, also to catch your breath a bit and get rid of that tunnel vision. And also too, if you're in a good spot, it allows you to settle things down, slow yourself down a little bit. Sometimes you'll watch white belts and they'll get to a dominant position. Instead of holding it, they'll start scrambling around to something else. You can settle down, hold position for a second, and you can start to look around like, what submission do I want to go for? So just an idea to chew on, brother. Hopefully that helps you. I'll talk to you guys next time.